Global hunger levels are at their highest in decades. According to statistics, the combined magnitude, severity and geographic scope of anticipated emergency food assistance needs during 2017 are unprecedented in recent decades. 70 million people across 45 countries will require emergency food aid this year. 4 countries, Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan and Yemen, face a credible risk of famine. And the United Nations is asking for more money. About $5.6 billion will be needed to address the crisis in just those 4 countries. In northeastern Nigeria, hit by a 7-year insurgency by Boko Haram Islamist militants, a study backed by the UN suggests famine occurred in 2016 and could be ongoing. In Yemen and South Sudan, persistent conflict, economic instability and restricted humanitarian access make famine possible in 2017. In Somalia, failed 2016 rains and a forecast of poor spring rains threaten a repeat of 2011, when famine killed 260,000 people. Flanked by top UN officials, Secretary General Antonio Guterres this week sounded the alarm over the looming threats of starvation for millions of people in 4 key conflict zones.
These 4 crises are very different, but they have one thing in common. They are all preventable. They all stem from conflict, which we must do much more to prevent and resolve. But even now, we can prevent the worst effects if we act urgently and strongly.
Let's get to you an update on the situation in Somalia. I'm joined live now from Mogadishu by CGTN's Abdulaziz Bello. Abdulaziz, has Somalia's new president come up with a plan to tackle the drought and famine that is looming in Somalia?
Well, Lindy, President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo is barely 30 days even in office, is less than a month, and part of his campaign pledge was to address the looming crisis here in Somalia, the protracted nature of the humanitarian crisis here in Somalia. Now, one of the main things President Farmajo says he will address was the ongoing drought, and the appointment of Hassan Ali Khaire as the Prime Minister in his press conference a few hours after he came from Saudi Arabia yesterday. Farmajo said that the fact that Hassan Ali Khaire, his choice of Prime Minister, he's a man who understands the basic concepts on the ground and a former humanitarian worker who understands the challenges facing the country at these stages, saying that he is the ideal candidate for a Prime Minister who can be able to implement the measures under his government pledge to avert the looming crisis here in Somalia. So that is part of his plan. But if we look at the bigger picture, then again, it's a total disaster here in Somalia. Nearly half of the country's total population, 6.2 million, according to the recent estimates by the UN Office for the Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. They say that 6.2 million people, of this number 385,000 are children who are facing a severe malnourishment. So definitely is a big challenge for the president of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo. But then again, he just returned from Saudi Arabia, where he talked with the Saudi authorities on how the Arab Kingdom can help his administration to avert the current drought from becoming a famine, as we witnessed in 2011. So the government, according to the drought committee, says it's challenged in terms of delivering aid to some of the affected areas. The most affected areas are in Puntland and Somaliland. But if we come to South Central Somalia, the Al-Shabaab remains the biggest challenge for authorities. Some towns liberated in 2014 still remain under Al-Shabaab blockade. So it's quite a big challenge for the president at this stage.
A big challenge indeed. Thank you very much, Abdulaziz Bello, for that update on the situation in Somalia.